My book fell down, guys. Ah, what's up, guys? What's up? What's up? Let me turn some microphones on for everybody real quick. Here we go. What's up, y'all?
Hi,
How are you?
pretty good. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Doing wonderful.
Uh,
Got deals moving, got people taking action. I cannot complain.
that's always good.
I think this is the first time that we have got to meet. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I'm pretty new to real estate. I'm in the process of um doing my first wrap deal, and
Cool.
my market is San Antonio. So I'm still learning the market, but I jumped in because I knew if I didn't, I would just never do it. So the property I have is sub two, pretty good rate. And yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited. But I
Awesome.
definitely am looking at like longer term because I don't want to over leverage myself with sub two properties. So I'm looking at different ways to find deals. And yeah, so I'm just learning.
Awesome. I love that
Yeah.
you took action. I mean, that's such a huge thing I talk about so much is that when you just take action, you find a way to make it happen generally, and you'll get
Mhm.
some result. But so many people just struggle for so long to
Yes.
get that started. So definitely great that you got the ball moving quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to do it. I know myself to know enough to know that I had to do that.
Great. Self-awareness. There you go. Well, that's me too, man. If I sit on something for too long, it's just going to end up not happening. I tend to just get after it and learn on the fly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it has created hurdles, but more often than not, it makes it so that the resources and the tools and the pieces that I need just magically show up right at the perfect time, right? So that's
Yeah.
one thing I've learned for sure is that when you take action, you generally get rewarded and things tend to go in your favor. So that's awesome. Love that for you.
I agree.
We got Home Guru here. I need a real name from you, Home Guru.
Yeah, it's Phil. It's Philip. I don't know how to change my name on here. It's a webinar.
Aha, got you. Well, let me promote you so that we can see you. Here we go. He's gonna have to jump out and back in. Let me share this link, everybody, while he gets
Promoted. All right.
you back. I got you finally. What's up, man?
I'm here. I'm here. How are we doing, guys?
Good, you made it. Had you hiding down there as the home guru, but the home guru is a good way to be known, so I would take that. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm good. I'm good. I'm here in Colorado. It's getting cold out here.
I bet, dude. Ah, man, I was cold this morning out here in Florida. It's 60 something degrees. I'm like, oh,
Right?
I know it's probably cold there.
I'm in San Diego and it's finally getting cold.
San Diego's a beautiful place. I love
I
San
know. I never want to leave this place.
Diego. Haley said she's in Wyoming and they have snow. Oh, no.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's
Sounded a little-
I see a few flakes out the window here. It's I'm a snowbird. I typically avoid cold places. So I'm
Yeah, me too. That's why I'm here in Florida.
Florida's nice. I like
Normally based
Florida.
out of- Where are you normally based out of, Phil?
Kansas City.
Oh, that's right. I knew that.
Yeah, but I lived in Southeast Asia for like 5 years. So
Oh,
I lived in like tropical environments for a long time and like actually avoided winter. I've been to Kansas City for 4 years and now I'm I've taken my real estate business and I do it more remotely now. So I'm
why don't we roll on back to the beginning then? That's a lot of teasing stuff there I love already. So tell us, my friend, first off, some of your background and then how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. My background is like pretty long. I started off like not re after I graduated college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And
Mhm.
I looked at like how most people spent their lives with their careers and everything else, and nothing felt extremely exciting to me. And so I just went off and I traveled. I did a working holiday visa in Australia. I worked on farms. I lived in like Hare Krishna communities and like living communities, and I just traveled all over for about a year. And then after that, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my lifestyle, but didn't have a way to make money anymore. So I started learning how to make money online. And I was living in Bali, Indonesia. I bought like a $200 laptop, and I was like, I'm going to figure out how to like survive and like work for myself. And at that time, I didn't like even know I was doing entrepreneurship. It was just like I just need to like make X amount of money so that I can like continue figuring out what I want to do with my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was me too, bro. For years, I lived this digital nomad. I talked a little bit last night on our training. At 25, or I guess 24 years old, I was like, I got to get out of my hometown. I moved to Los Angeles with no money in my pocket. I'm like, I got to figure out how to make money online. I had always made money selling stuff, but then I was like, couldn't see myself in the corporate grind. I wish, in retrospect, wish I would have stayed around longer, been a little bit more responsible with the way I handled that. But when you're 23, you don't think about that shit. You just do shit. And so by 23, I had left the gym. By 24, I moved to Los Angeles, and I have not, well, this will be a year we've been in this apartment. Outside of that, and then COVID, I've not been anywhere longer than 6 months. We have been all over the place, all over the country, really. I haven't really got international. We got the big German Shepherds, so it's hard to go international with the dogs, but we've been all over the country. I put damn near 130,000 miles on the Cadillac since 2021. So we be all over the place. So I understand that, like, how am I going to make money online right now so that I can keep doing what I'm doing situation. So cool. So was real estate your first endeavor, or what other ways did you make money online?
No, I did. I started off with like a Squarespace development company, like doing websites. And then eventually I found drop shipping, like e-commerce. I did that for a while. And then eventually I realized that like I had this whole vision of like figuring out money in 1 year. It was like figure out money now so that I can get financially free and then I can give back to the world. And that like, so it's like I'm gonna make $1 million in a year. And so I started doing e-commerce and like trying to figure it out. And that 1 year like really quickly turned to 4 years.
There it is.
And like at the end of the day, I realized I was like selling like sexy woman leggings and like streetwear clothing that I wasn't extremely passionate about. And I was like, what am I like actually doing with my life? And that was like right around when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just realized that like this whole like putting off my purpose until I create financial freedom is an illusion. And I realized that. And that's when I like was like, all right, let me like realign and like live my purpose right now, because like life is like it's more of an infinite game. It's not a finite game. There's no like I'm there now. It's like this ongoing thing of like development and growing.
Yeah.
And that's when I started doing real estate. And like 1 year into real estate, we like grew a wholesaling company. And I grew it just because that's what you do, right? You start a business and you grow, grow, grow. And we
Right.
grew it. And eventually I realized I was just like drop shipping real estate and not holding on to any assets for myself. And so I wasn't actually building long-term wealth. I found myself in like a similar grind. It was like really funny. I was like, wow, I just like did
Oh
the
man.
exact same thing like over again, where I like built this job for myself that I like wasn't fully enjoying.
Yeah. That is maybe another definition of wholesaling. I mean, I anybody that does wholesaling, and I've been a relatively short wholesaling career, but wholesaling is synonymous with marketing. That's all that really is. So my whole career in marketing has been on that same hamster wheel of trying to do it. You know, I tried to do recurring client relationships, right? But then you got to sell 100 people, then you got to keep 100 people active. The first, man, I've sold anything you can imagine on social media, right? We've sold from we did the e-com stuff, all kinds of crazy products. We sold the whole growth packages and like engagement packages, brand identity. We've done Facebook advertising, all kinds of cold outreach. I was always trying to get it online too, right? I just was never going to be somebody to go have to work a job, right? But you said something there that I definitely fell prey to in my career. I know many people do, and that's that you think it's going to happen fast. I'm going to do this now. I can't tell you how many people have come to me, my homeboys or my homegirls, or for just friends as I've advanced in business. They're like, yo, G, I got this thing. Check this thing. I'm about to hit it so big. And I have been that guy many times in my career, for sure, especially with the NFT shit. I did that and I made good money and then I ate shit because of it, right? So like even if you get paid fast, what happens is when you make a big sum of money in a short period of time, you haven't earned it and you haven't learned it. You haven't learned how to use that money. You haven't learned how to leverage that money. So I got at that point in my career to say, oh, we made $1 million in a week. But if you zoom out another 8 months, 6 to 8 months, I took a net loss of like almost $200,000. So you're like, yeah, we hit it big. Woo, woo. We made a bunch of money online. I'm finally rich. And you're not, right? Because it takes time to build the foundational skills. And another thing you said there that I really love was that you were putting off your purpose to try to make money, right? People do that. People think that I have to make money right now. When I have a bunch of money, then I'll go change the world, right? And it's actually quite ironic that when you're not pursuing your purpose, the money becomes more difficult to get. But when you have a driving factor that is deeper to you, that is more important than just a dollar sign, the money will start to just come flowing in, right? My passion, my purpose is leadership and development of other people. Anybody that comes here and listens to me talk every day knows how much I enjoy pouring energy into other people, because when you leave me and you go upwards in life, that is rewarding for the both of us, right? And in turn, it brings deal opportunities at this point more than I can handle. I'm juggling, trying to find other people to handle deals because I spend time giving, living my purpose, and in turn, the money comes backwards. So I think that was a great point that you made there. Is like you really have to find your deeper reason and let that be your driving factor. Let the money come because of that.
For sure. And I also just like focus on the skill sets that are being developed, because like as we go through entrepreneurship, it's not, I mean, yes, money's amazing. We like to make money. We like to like create wealth in our lives and generational wealth. And like, yeah, big fans, like that was great. And like as we do it, like we're building up these skills that are going to be transferable to the next thing. Like when I
Yes.
first started doing wholesaling, I was not just wholesaling, I was learning how to like learning real estate,
Yeah.
learning how to do sales, learning how to manage a team, learning how to hire people. Like there's all these different skill sets that came along with the actual business that are skill sets that I get to keep for the rest of my life, which are also like really amazing. So it's not like maybe the money was up and down at times, but like the skill sets are transferable.
Hmm. Absolutely. There's levels to the game, right? And so even this morning, I was talking to Aaliyah. For those of you who know Aaliyah, she's my assistant. She runs my socials. She's great. Side note, she's looking for social media clients. So anybody that wants help growing, reach out to Aaliyah. I was talking to her a little bit about her desire to make money online. And at where she's at 18 years old, she's like social media marketing. I'm like, perfect. That's exactly what you should be doing, right? Now she gets to learn this skill set while she works with me. How much more is she learning from me than social media marketing? Right? Like she's getting a ton of value by doing the thing that she's at that level right now. But if she came up here and tried to analyze real estate deals and make offers and close negotiations, she'd be playing outside of her realm. She's not at that level yet, right? So you got to learn the skills as you go up, right? And I love to share failure. Everybody gets to see G Money as the big shiny thing. Like I am who I am because I failed a lot and I pick myself up and I keep on going, right? And so I have also tried to play at a level that I was not at yet, right? And again, the NFT example in my life is the biggest one of all. I was not an expert in that technology. I was not an expert in NFTs. I was an expert at community development. I'm an expert at getting people excited and selling and marketing stuff. So I was trying to play at a level that I wasn't at yet, right? And I ate shit. But here's the irony in all of that, right, guys? Right now, I have mentioned a few times Property Grid, who I'm meeting with their founder again tomorrow. They are a company that fractionalizes ownership of real estate on the blockchain, meaning that thing that I failed at a couple years ago, that NFT project and learning all the blockchain technology and all the shit that I didn't do because I was playing outside of my league. Now I'm at that level and we're able to implement all of those lessons into what we're doing now. That what felt like failure, what looks like failure, what smells like failure in the moment, when you get further down the road, you realize, wow, those skills I learned in that time prepared me for this right now. And if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be able to do this today. So you're absolutely right, dude. You learn through the process, which is in the long run more valuable than the money that you're making in the moment. The skills become way more higher leverage, way higher leverage.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Yeah, I have a mentor and he broke it down. He's like, he is one of the largest entrepreneur masterminds in the country. And he was like, well, yeah, he's an awesome guy. But he said like what he's learned is like most people think you can like hit $1 million in a year. And like in most cases, it takes about 10 years to like get to your first million. But what they don't tell you is that once you get to 1 million, it's so much easier to go from like 1 to 10. So you can get to that first one and then go to the next 10 like that same year. He basically got to his first one, then the next 10 in like basically a year. And so
Right.
it's just like playing a video game. You know, if you grew up playing video games at all, like you level up your character, then eventually it becomes super easy. And like
Exactly.
entrepreneurship is like the fires that we get to go through to like level up our characters so that it
Yeah.
becomes like easier and easier in the long run.
I love that metaphor right there. I always talk about the comparison to like athletics or like sports, right? I capped out at 5'8", and your boy never got to the pros. Unfortunately, I was just never going to get there, right? But I love the mindset. I live the mindset of an athlete, right? I grind every day, twice a day in the gym. I'm constantly trying to improve my skill set, whether it's with boxing or whatever. I'm always trying to level up from an athletic perspective, right? And you see athletes that will do this. You don't just jump straight into being the best in the world. LeBron has been pro since he was 18 years old, 21 years. He's been the best in the world, steadily getting better. As more competitors come in at a younger age, he's still getting better. That is what it means over time. That's how your career looks, right? That 21 years later, you've been doing the same thing and you can look back and say, damn, this is the growth pattern. So awesome, bro. Awesome. So you went through the wholesaling journey and we talked about the rat race that is. And then I'm assuming that's when you stumbled upon creative finance and started some different strategies.
Yeah. Yeah. So we found creative financing. We found Pace Morby and some other mentors. We hired a bunch of mentors around like creative financing, started learning that. So it was really interesting to us. And yeah, and then we started like taking down creative finance deals. And that's when we started like holding on to properties. And then what our company that does now is we seller finance families. So we seller finance families, mostly families that don't qualify with the banks. Most of them are first generation Americans, mostly a lot of them are Latino. And it's a really cool niche. I'd be happy to share with you guys and like show you like what we do with it.
Let's definitely break it down. So let's start from the top. So you had been wholesaling. A lot of folks here have been in that position or are learning that right now, doing outreach, creating conversations. So you're going from mostly cash wholesaling or maybe all cash wholesaling, and then you're going to make the pivot to creative finance. So let's start from the very top and break it down. What changes did you do in outreach or marketing? Were you changing the type of leads that you're trying to generate? What did that transition look like for you from mostly cash to a creative focus?
Yeah, so it started off that we would just do straight cash and we would just had a lead generation system for our wholesaling operation. So we were doing text message marketing and getting leads through that. Eventually we had a cold caller. Eventually we did other forms of marketing, like all marketing works. We just at the time texting was working well for us. And yeah, then we're just getting the leads coming in. And some of them the cash offer just didn't make sense for. And so with those people that the cash offer didn't make sense for, we started offering them different types of creative structuring. We also like made a mistake at times like trying to fit every like was it a square peg into a round hole and like force everything into subject to or seller financing. But eventually we learned that we have different tools. And like we always start with the cash offer. And then like when the cash offer didn't work, now we can go into other different types of alternatives. And that's when we could start talking about subject to or seller financing. And so it just came from our current pipeline. We already have pipeline, and then eventually we'll learn how to add in those creative offers.
Yeah, dude. So I love what you mentioned there as well, again, with the square peg in the round hole, right? And then you used a word that I say on maybe every live stream we do, and that's the word tool, right? Somebody last night said, "Oh, you're the tool shed." And I said, "I don't think that's a compliment." But the reason why I said that is because every episode I say the word tool because what I look at all of these exit strategies and entry strategies as are different tools to solve the problem. Our job is to figure out which tools we have to piece together from an acquisition side, from a disposition side to get a deal done. That's what being a deal maker means on this side. So awesome, dude. So, okay. Now, what was the next step for you then? So you start generating different types of leads. How were you? Let's just break it down slowly. So how are you crafting offers? Like I know everybody has a slightly different formula, but Pace kind of teaches everybody. How are you structuring deals to best fit into your rap? Well, I guess we'll get to the rap title, but to your strategy.
I mean, honestly, when I first started wholesaling, like I didn't know what deals were. I just knew that like there are definite deals, there are maybe deals, and there's like definitely not a deal. And so like because when you're flipping or doing other types of real estate, you have to like really hone in on your craft and know the rehabs exactly. I just kind of got like 80 to 90% of the way there. And then we make offers based off of that. So like obviously like if you're doing it, if it's a subject to and it's like under 5% interest, it's probably a deal
Yeah,
like most likely. And I
most
mean,
likely.
it depends on the market and so on as well. But like, in Kansas City, we knew Like we can see if there's any equity, and if there's a little bit of equity and low interest rate, like that's a deal. And then there's going to be different options that you have for what to do with it. So how do we first start doing crafting our deals or crafting our offers? Um,
Well, let me ask you actually another question I just had while we kind of steer this. So, did you ever do anything outside of Kansas City, or when you were doing cash, were you just in that market as well, and then you pivoted to?
we stayed in Kansas City. So we did try some suburban markets. So we tried like different areas of Kansas, like it's like 3 hours from Kansas City, and none of them worked well. So we did try remote markets before, and it just didn't work out well for us.
Okay, well, that's what I was wondering because there's honestly two different types of marketers, and I think for me, I actually work best with people that have their specific markets, and then I can help dispo and help work with things by having a network of people. Not many people can go nationwide. I don't care what everybody tells you about Eric Klein and all these other gurus out here. They're like, oh, go nationwide, go virtual. It's hard as shit. We done solar virtual for 2 years. It is not easy to run any business virtually for sure. So I think it's actually that's why I wanted to ask that question because I think it's a great point, especially if you're wanting to look at scaling your own business. You're going to want to focus on your circle of influence. And for most of you, especially early on, your circle of influence is going to be what you can go physically touch and be there with. So focusing on where you're at, I think is good. So, all right. So you're getting some opportunities. You said the type of lead that works best for your strategy here, it's called a wrap strategy is kind of at its core, right? And I don't know if you have some different pieces that maybe make it unique, but this is what you're doing is you're getting it some kind of creative finance terms, right? Which generally you're going to be looking for what? Low equity deals, right?
There's different ways to structure it. So like,
Break it down.
yeah. So when we first started, we were just getting subject to and seller finance deals. Most of those were low equity. Some of them they just like the mission and purpose of what we were doing because we are seller financing families that don't qualify with the banks. So like one of the cool things about this model is that we went from like wholesaling houses to hedge funds to seller financing families. A lot of them are first generation Americans who are like achieving their dreams by gaining access to homeownership in the United States. So it's like a very different feeling when you go to a closing table and it's like a hedge fund versus like, a family that just moved from Mexico like 8 years ago and they've been working super hard to save up money to buy a house. And now they're like buying a house for their family. It's
Oh,
just it just like it just hits different. So some families like when we go to like buy houses, like we would tell people about what we do with the properties also. And some people just like that. Some people just like the story that goes with it. So we
that's
have subject to deals. We have subject to hybrids where it's partially subject to, partially seller financing. We have straight seller financing deals. So we would structure deals in different ways based off of the needs of the seller and like what's important to them. But yeah, so we would just start acquiring properties on creative financing. And then on the back end, we would just wrap them or seller finance families. And typically those families are willing to pay a slight premium because we have the in-house financing. They can't qualify with the banks. So they'll pay a slight premium and they'll also give down payments of, 10,000 to, we've had up to like, the highest was 75,000, but obviously on average, like 10,000 to 35,000 is their
nice.
down payments they'll bring.
Nice. So is there certain criteria on the property that you look for, or is it just the financing terms that really matter to you in the market that you know you're going to be able to place a buyer?
Yeah, so we've refined our buy box over time, but when we first started doing it, we didn't know what the buy box was. So
Okay.
any property that's a subject to, we would take on, and that was anywhere from like $100,000 to $500,000. And so what we learned is that in our market in Kansas City, most of the families, it's easiest to sell a house on a wrap if it's 3 bedrooms or more.
Okay. Yeah.
Two, if it needs to have a basement or crawl space, because like in the Midwest, a lot of Latinos are scared of tornadoes, which I had no idea was a thing, but it's like a very real thing. So like slab foundations were actually really hard to sell for us. Below median income. So like we'd like to sell houses between like 200 and 300,000 is like our sweet spot. And then the monthly payment on the sale side is like between like 1,500 and 2,300. So those are all metrics that we built over time, but we've sold houses like all across the board. And yeah. So yeah.
So I'm gonna zoom out a little bit as an entrepreneur, as a marketing guy. I want to talk about a few things here. So, right,
Mhm.
I got into real estate not because I really am passionate about real estate. I love to grow businesses. I've been doing service-based businesses. This is not much different, right? When you zoom out a little bit further, outside of working with a seller, what you realize is that as a business, my actual job is to have a buyer of the product. the word wholesaler works in many industries. Selling cannabis out in Los Angeles, I'm a wholesaler. I'm buying things at a wholesale price from a provider. And I'm going to sell it to my buyer. My job is to have a product that I can package and sell to the buyer. It matters more than the front side. Now, yeah, I got to get the product at the right numbers, at the right terms, so that I can package it to deliver properly. But what I wanted to point out here is he was able to find and refine a buy box that let him know who his avatar is, who is my buyer, so that I can go acquire the right product up here. Instead of let me just go buy a bunch of products and then hope I can find somebody to buy it to, I'm going to know who's going to buy, what I'm going to do. You can't always know that at first. Like you said, you kind of just get started, you acquire what you can, you're able to learn more specifically. The more you work with somebody that's an expert in your market or able to better help you learn faster on how to define what that buy box should be, the faster you'll be able to dispo deals, the faster you'll be able to find a solution on the other side versus getting it locked up and then like keep trying to get an extension on your contract because you can't sell it or assign it to somebody because it's not a good deal and you're still trying to find a way to chop it up. If you know somebody's going to be ready to buy this, if you know you have a buyer's pool, it's easy to find the acquisition
For
when the
sure.
time is right. So that's what I heard as you were talking that through, is that like you were able to refine who you're selling this to, and then it makes it much easier to know how I have to acquire it to make that work.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And it evolves over time. And we also help people underwrite deals. Like Santos has a deal in Texas that we were underwriting for her last night. And it's
Awesome.
kind of like learning how to underwrite these deals and like the principles that come with it because they're pretty, replicable across different markets.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. And even wholesaling, when I started wholesaling, I worked with a hedge fund and the guy I'd be like, hey, what can you offer for this? And he would tell me. And then I could like back into the deal because like, okay, they can offer like 170. That means I should get it for like 150. So let me see if I can get it for 150. Because
Yeah.
I didn't understand. I was learning real estate. I was at the very beginning stages of real estate and I didn't understand like what all investors are looking for and how there's different types of investments between, flippers and buy and holders and hedge funds and how they like analyze and look at the deals. And that was like stuff I got to learn in the very beginning.
Yeah. So one of the things you said that you were able to refine your buy box as was 3 bedrooms or more, right? As I
Mhm.
hear that, I hear it's because your end buyer that you're selling to is a family, somebody who needs to have multiple rooms, enough rooms to fit their family, 2 parents, 2 kids. There's your 4-person American family. Now,
Mhm.
in the Midwest and probably with Latino families, I coming from a Mexican family background, I've spent enough time to know that there's probably a lot of people there. But so I understand why you want to search for slightly something bigger. Um, so that's cool. Now let's break down the wrap process a little bit more thoroughly, right? So we're going to acquire the property on some creative terms, either subject to or seller finance, right? So let's break down each one first. So subject to, I actually have a comparable property that a realtor, Sherry, the realtor that she brought to the table, Daryl, sent me another property that isn't available yet, but might be. So I was just underwriting it a few minutes ago to see. Um, Basically, they have a 375K mortgage. She's willing to sell for $425,000. I'm like, all right, she doesn't have much space. What's going on here, right? Like, if she's trying to sell like that, then she probably doesn't need a big chunk of money. She's just trying to get out of this. So I'm like, there's a mortgage in place. I'm like, give me the terms. And like, I'd be interested in this subject too. So what we would do is we would take it over at her current terms. I don't know what those terms are yet, but let's say it's in Cape Coral, Florida. So let's say it's probably $2,000 a month, right? Cost for an easy flat number. Now I'm going to acquire this at the current terms that she's at. Let's say it's 3% and $2,000 a month payment. So I'm going to go lock this up. Now we're going to go find a buyer that we're going to do what?
We are going to find a buyer who can't qualify with the bank, who wants to own a house, and then we're going to get them to agree on terms for buying the property.
Bigger than what we just signed for. That's it.
Yeah.
At its simplest. If you want to make it as simple as we can, so we're going to find somebody that will pay us more than what we just signed that for. So what that might look like is now I'm going to maybe give the seller $10,000 to exit. I'm going to take it over subject to. So now I want to be able to sell it to somebody for $20,000 down with a 5%, 5.5, 6%, right? Somewhere in that range, maybe a little bit higher still currently. It would be going down. So maybe that's where we want to put it at. Now, I just got it for $10,000 and I'm going to sell it for 20,000. This is the wrap. I'm going to wrap that, right? So they're 10. Now we're going to make 10. That's our initial front side profit. Okay. And then we're going to wrap the interest rate the same way. They're at 3%. We're going to wrap it with another, let's say 3%, right? Now, when we get paid every month by the buyer, we're going to pay the mortgage payment that's currently there. And then we have that difference that is another profit margin for you there.
Yeah. So you're getting the wholesale fee and you're also getting cash flow for like up to 30 years. And the cash flow, because yeah, it's cool to look at this when you see like an actual like calculator, but like because of the interest rate differences, like you're actually gaining equity every single year. And
Yes.
you're also, the cash flow is free. The cash flow is not eating away that equity you have, but because the interest rate differences, you might get $600 a month in cash flow while you're still growing in equity.
So, yep. And then one other thing about this deal that I wanted to share that is a huge point for me about the wrap is that this property is probably worth close to $600,000. She's wanting to sell it fast because her husband died. She needs to move. She just really wants to get out underneath it. I don't know why she wants to sell it so low, but this is where she's at. So we're going to get into this in theory. Let's say it actually comes all the way through for $10,000 down and have $180,000 in built-in equity, right? So now off the jump, I don't even have to increase the price. I don't even have to wrap the whole purchase price in order to have a tremendous amount of built-in equity. But on maybe a smaller deal, you might increase the total purchase price, I would imagine as well, right? Do you wrap the total value with any kind of bump in equity there?
Yeah. So usually we're charging about 15% of a premium, and that's for having the in-house financing in place. So we're usually doing lower interest rates with more of a premium on the sale
cool.
price. So we're typically building in 60,000 to 80,000 of equity.
Cool. Well, let's run the questions here. We have Bain asks, have you had any problems with default yet? Have you had
So
anybody not pay the bill?
we've done about 40 of these, and we have one problem client. They were recently 3 months behind, and then we were about to evict them. We went through the eviction process. We were about to get the court date, and then they called up all the payments and pay the attorney fees. 3 months later, now they are behind 2 months again, and we're starting the eviction process again. So it's, but I mean, we already collected $20,000 down on this deal. So like at the end of the day, it's not really bad. So it's going to bring another buyer in and get $20,000 more. So we collected cash flow, we collected the down payment, and like there's about like a 95% success rate so far. So our families do, it's pretty solid. Yeah.
So, I just had a question that just slipped from me. So,
I can go. Another quick thing, Bain, is like a cool thing about this model is that they have ownership mindset. So like they are not calling us when anything breaks. So we're not getting calls about like if the roof is leaking, anything else is happening, like they'll take care of it themselves. The only time we get called is if there's like an insurance claim we need to do for them. But they have ownership mindsets. There's very little management once they're in the property. It's just like we use a management company who collects the payments. Which is very easy to set up. And then if they stop paying, that management company reaches out to them. If they stop responding, you do an eviction. But like the odds of them doing that are very slim because they are putting, $10,000, $20,000 into the house, which is a significant amount of money. Especially for someone who's like buying the first house in the United States, that's like the majority of their wealth is like put into that property, and they have equity in the house. So they're like, they can just sell it if they had to.
Yeah. So notice here, guys, he's not playing a landlord. He's playing the bank. He's the bank. The bank is not going to fix your toilet. That's the landlord. Here he is the bank. There's a property management in place that's going to handle all of that, whatever is needed. I remember the question or the point that I was going to make. So in that, you're obviously doing a really good job of finding the right buyers, right? Because there's a difference in a penalty box buyer. There's a type of person that can't qualify for a standard bank mortgage because they're bad with money. And there's a type of person that can't qualify with a bank mortgage because they're a new citizen or they're a 1099 employee and they don't have enough on a W-2, which I never even thought about buying a house because of the way that I made money online. It wasn't even an option for me until I found creative finance. Never would I thought about it because I fit right in the middle of that box. No matter how much money I made, I couldn't show it. I couldn't prove it the way that I needed to be able to qualify consistently. So there's a difference in those two. So when you're qualifying buyers, how are you filtering out? Are you doing this yourself, or is it like a screening? Is the property management company helping you in some way? How are you finding these buyers to get you a 95% success rate?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest questions I get. So like I'm going to make like a small masterclass or something, like breaking down the
Cool.
different ways, because there are different ways to do it. If you like, so the easiest way is to find an agent that specializes in selling houses on seller financing. Typically, they're Spanish speaking. If you're in a major market, you're going to, especially Florida and Kansas City, we have about 3 of these. We just found some in San Antonio, in Texas. There's a bunch. Like if you're in a major market, like someone's selling houses, seller financing, and finding an agent is the easiest way. That is the way where it's just like it's who, not how. It's just finding someone who specializes in this, and they're able to bring the buyers in. You'll usually pay them somewhere around like $3,000 out of the down payment. $3,000 to $5,000, I would say, is pretty standard. So if you're getting 20,000 down, you'll pay them 3 to 5K. That's the easiest way. Other ways is building out all the marketing in-house. And that also works, like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, all the standard ways to just get eyes on properties. You can also do it that way, but that's more of like, it's more just like fielding the calls yourself. I have a mentor who does this in, where does he do it? Georgia, Northern Florida, Indiana, I believe, or Illinois. And he does everything on Facebook Marketplace. I talked to a guy yesterday. He's doing 15 of these a month in San Antonio, and he's been doing this for like 15 years. He does everything in house. He does Facebook ads and also posting in Latina groups.
So that's something that a term that I use a lot is dollar cost average, right? How many dollars am I going to lose out or miss out on if I'm spending time here versus paying somebody else to just do it, right? So especially early on, you're going to get more value out of paying the agent and keeping your time on higher leverage tasks than learning how to be a marketing guru and deliver the way that somebody who's been doing it for 15 years, like his mentor that he just talked about. There's a big difference there. So early on, collaborate. As you get more revenue, more capital, you can hire an internal marketing person. You can work with a marketing agency like us, and we can build those campaigns. All of those things get easier when you have more money. But early on, let the person that does the thing do the thing, right? Don't try to like over leverage yourself by like, oh, I can save $750 if I calculated all of my spend and my projections, and I'll save $750. And then you do it and you end up spending $1,000 or $2,000 more than you thought you were going to because you try to do it yourself.
Yeah,
So
and there's also
that's how I do it.
the holding costs, there's everything that's associated with the properties. So,
Yeah.
As I mentioned, we've done like around 40 of these, and we're just now hiring somebody in-house. It was just something that was never quite the most important thing to do until recently we decided that's time to like bring it in-house. But we had agents do probably 90% of the deals. We found a few on Craigslist, we found a few on Marketplace, but like for the most part, agents found our buyers on like all the deals, and that was like the easiest way to go about doing it.
So there's another point to kind of build off of there, right? To get to 40 means you have to have some kind of scalable system. The person that tries to do everything themselves will do 1 or 2 or 3 a year, 4 or 5, right? But the person that builds a system that has parts that are outside of their own physical capacity will do more, faster, further, and longer always. Because the leverage is higher when you're using other people's powers beyond yours. So I would always go to an agent that can do it faster. I will trade dollars for time every single time. I can always make more dollars, but I'll never make more time. So I will always give you more money for me to shorten my gap of time. And that's the reason why I've always scaled in business. So it's something that Hormozi talks about all the time, right? Like I'm going to go buy the skill. I'm going to go pay you to teach me right now so I don't have to spend 18 months to learn it. I want to learn it in the next 18 days so that I can implement what you already spent 18 years learning. That is the same kind of principle here. Why would I try to do what the Daryl, the agent we keep talking about, he's been doing it for a long time. He knows everybody in the area. He lists and moves all kinds of properties. Could I go find somebody in the market? Yes. But how quickly can he bring me somebody like that when I need it? Because he already has done the work. I think that's a great point that I didn't want to skim over, because especially early on, leverage what you can from like collaboration for sure. There was another question here in the chat I want to ask. How do we identify motivation if it's off market? So it's back a few steps back to the lead generation just a little bit. But when we're talking to seller, if it's off market, what's the way that you help identify motivation or help position maybe creative finance?
So this is the same mentor who told me the $1 million thing. He gave us these challenges for a while. It was really awesome. He had like a small group of us. We had a weekly challenge, and he in his mastermind he had people like Jeff Bezos and like other like really high up entrepreneurs. And what he noticed was like they were never on their phones, and he also noticed that they were asking questions all the time. And so he gave us this challenge. It was a week-long challenge. That's for the next week of your life, have 80% of your talk time be in asking questions. So basically, only questions for all of your communications for a week. And that to me was like the most life-changing challenge I've ever done. It was like, and it's crazy because it's such a simple thing, but like everything about how my mind was working changed. It wasn't about like I realized I would think about like what am I going to say next? And I was like, no, like how can I listen deeper to ask like the next question? And that's what to me, that's what sales is. Sales is just like understanding, it's understanding like what is the pain point, why do they want to sell, what is the situation, like what is their situation, what is the impact it's having on their lives, what's the picture perfect scenario, and just understanding and just asking questions to gain understanding. And like sales does not need to be like a bad thing. Like sales is just like understanding the situation of where somebody is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so to add a little bit on that, Jordan, on how specific ways that you can help dig into what their motivation is, things like, well, I guess if it's off market and they've already expressed some interest to sell, I guess it doesn't really change, I guess, from either direction. You're just going to ask what it is that they are looking to accomplish. What's their goal, right? He talks about using questions. That's what I want to figure out when I'm going to negotiate here. Or I want to get to a solution. We're gonna brand this fully. Our slogan with deal makers: win-win or no deal. Win-win or no deal. If I can't put together a deal with that you can win and I can win, then we're not going to do a deal together because I won't feel good about taking something from you that's not fair on your side, and I wouldn't want you to do the same to me. So with that mindset, I'm not trying to sell them something. This is huge difference, right? I have sold a lot of stuff, and there's a difference slightly in sales and negotiation, right? Sales is a lot more like marketing. I want to get in front of you. I want to convince you of something. Negotiation is I'm here, you're here, we want to meet here. How do we make that happen? So what you want to do is ask questions to give you all the ammo that you can. So in one of the properties, the horse one that you guys heard me talk about quite a bit, the seller has had three, or the same agent, Daryl, has had three people come to buy it, sign the contract for purchase, and not be able to get to closing for different funding reasons. So the seller has a hard mortgage in place, a hard money mortgage in place. They're paying, they don't live anywhere around here. They're bleeding cash. They have tried to get this off for a long time, right? So their goal is to get rid of this pain point. It's not a huge cash collection. They want to pay this. So in talking, I was able to find what was their motivation. Now I'm doing this through an agent, again, leveraging what the relationship he already had. I don't need to build the trust that he already has with them. So I'm like, all right, their motivation isn't getting a huge chunk. It's more about getting this pain point off of them. So now I'm able to position a creative offer that's a win-win. I can take this pain point away from you. I can make it so that you don't have to bleed cash. I'll bring money and put it in your pocket. We'll pay off the hard money mortgage, right? But the win for me is that we get a $200,000 spread. We get to acquire this profit producing, revenue producing horse farm. And now I solved their problem, got a payday, and acquired an asset because I was focused on asking questions on what they really needed instead of I got to get it at this number, which is where most wholesalers are at. They're like, they know how to, they got their little calculator and their times 0.65 or zero point 0.6, and they know what their offer is. And that's what they're hitting them over the head with. And that's not what we're talking about here with creative finance. It's you have a problem. I have many solutions. I have many tools that I can use for this solution. I just need to get as much info as I can to figure out how I can best help you. So whatever questions come naturally to the conversation that you're having, with the understanding that there's a few pillars you want to hit. You want to know their motivation, of course. You want to know their general price, asking price. You want to know the timeline. You want to know the condition. Those are your pillars to stay within. Other than that, be a human being. Your job is not to sell something or push something. Talk to the other person authentically like another human being. Find out what their pain points are. Find out how you can help, and it will flow much more naturally than trying to be a rigid salesperson that's going to try to get the certain number in a deal. Great question. Thank you, Jordan. Great question. Okay, so anything else we haven't covered on the wrap strategy on your side of things that you think that we should share here? As we got about 15 minutes or so left.
Santos asked a good question about vetting the buyers. She said, how do you vet your buyers? And typically, like the vetting comes mostly from the down payment. Like they have skin in the game, like from the down payment. We do stated income as well. A lot of times they're referrals from the agents. Like a lot of these agents who specialize in like this niche, like they're getting the buyers from other people who've already bought from them in the past. So like we're not doing any sort of crazy vetting. Like most of it is just the skin in the game. Because if they have the down payment and they put 30,000 to a house, 20,000 to a house, like the odds of them walking away are going to be very slim. Because a lot of times they're going to have equity as well, or they'll be able to capture appreciation and they can sell it, or it's their biggest asset. So we're personally not doing anything crazy for the vetting. You can also run them through an RMLO. It's like a mortgage loan officer who will ask for a bunch of documents, and you can vet them that way. But that's currently what we're doing.
That was a great question. Great explanation. Thank you for sharing that. I think that you're right, right? When they come with a big chunk down, they're coming with a buyer's mindset. They're coming with an owner's mindset. You mentioned that earlier. So this is their house. And I think that's one of the biggest differences in this, maybe the biggest difference in this strategy versus just renting a house out. It's like, all right, we're getting recurring cash flow. They're kind of similar. Yes, on this side, we're gaining equity. We're getting a whole lot more value. But why is this one better? Because they're going to own it like it's their house, and a renter is not. They're going to let the dog chew on the blinds. They're going to have whatever, and it's going to sit there until you fix it as a landlord. But when it's their house, they're like, oh man, and now they got to go paint the walls, or they got to go buy a new set of blinds, right? Because it's their house. They have an emotional, we talk about this on the other side of acquisitions. They have an emotional connection to their home. Same thing is happening here. They're buying a home. So short of some financial ruin or some major life situation, which happens to people, which is why they face pre-foreclosure on a bank mortgage, sometimes things happen. You're going to roll the dice anytime you own real estate, that there's some things that go wrong, but they're going to have that mindset. This is mine. This is my biggest purchase in my life. For most people, it's the biggest thing they ever buy. So they're going to take care of it. They're going to build their family and their life around it. So I think you're right. If they're willing to bring that money down and buy a house as an owner, this is why I hate traditional financing. This is why I hate traditional financing, because it's dumb, right? Like I'm willing to bring the money, and this was us a couple of years ago when we wanted to buy a house. I had the money, but I was not going to be able to qualify. So it didn't matter that I had the money and wanted to buy a home and like I would be responsible for it. They were like, nope, you don't fit in our little box. No good. Got to go next. Right. So it's like, just because somebody doesn't fit that box doesn't mean they don't deserve to own a home. Right. So I think that's great, man.
Yeah, and then back to like the penalty box buyers that you're talking about, like a lot of these families, it's not that they have bad credit, they have no credit.
Yeah.
They just don't use, they're just not in the credit system, which was also me like a few years ago. I just didn't want to have a credit card. Like I would just use a debit account and not use credit until I got into real estate and learned how to leverage other people's money. But yeah, a lot of these families, it's not like they have bankruptcies on their record or they've been evicted from houses. It's like that they just don't have credit.
Yeah.
They just are not using the credit system.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Love it, dude. Any other, we actually do have a question here already. I'm curious about how to determine if a lease option versus straight seller finance is best for a property. Is there a huge difference in underwriting those?
Cool. Yeah, and this is more like the slightly more advanced kind of side. Like for the first deals with this, I think like the biggest thing is just like getting a deal, and then you can take it step by step. We've been working with Santos to like go step by step through her deal that she has. So awesome. She's kind of like she found an agent and she found the deal. She got the deal on her own, but then she brought the deal to us. And then after she brought the deal to us, she's like, "Hey, can I possibly wrap this? I'm gonna try to rent it in Texas." And we're like, "Yes, this is an amazing wrap deal." And the next step was like, "Okay, can you like let's find an agent?" And she went out and she found an agent who specializes in these types of houses and seller financing families in Texas. And now she's going through that process to find the buyer. And now it's the question of the paperwork. So like, I think it's really nice to take these one step at a time. Like, it begins with like that deal. And then it's like, okay, what's the next step? Okay, what's the next step? But Santos did an amazing job of taking action and like getting a deal in a market that she's not even in. So around like lease options versus seller financing. So when you sell these deals, the down payment's always the lever, and I talk about this a lot. So like if you're marketing it for 30,000 down and it's not moving, you can always lower that down payment. So when the down payment gets below a certain level, I would highly recommend doing it as a lease option because your risk is getting higher. So we've sold houses at $10,000 down before, and for me, that's like a higher risk sale. Depending on like the underwriting of the individual and learning about their stated income and everything else. But like that's when we'd be more likely consider doing a lease option. As we got more advanced, we did more things with the paperwork where now we actually do like everyone on a lease option that has a credit system that's more complex. That's not needed here, but like originally how I would do it is like if they only have 5,000 down, like I need to sell this house, they only have 5,000 down or 10,000 down. Ideally a minimum of 10,000. Then you can do it as a lease option, and then you can tell them like, hey, bring $10,000 more, and we'll convert this to seller financing. So a lease option is just like they have no equitable interest at that point, and so it's a very simple eviction process to get them out. And so that's how I look at it. It's like levels of risk. If they're like a bunch of skin in the game, we'll do a contract for deed or even get them the deed.
I think that answers Bane's question right there a little bit. Why is it higher risk for lower down? From my perspective, it would be because it's easier to piss away $10,000 than it is to piss away $30,000.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's also like as in any like rental situation, like there is discernment that's required. That's why like honestly, like the majority of our buyers are first generation Americans from Latin American countries. And we love this demographic because they're like, I don't know, it's not the Americanized way of like, let's go to court and like fight this long process. It's like, it's more of like, it's not a handshake deal, but it feels like a handshake deal. We're coming at this from like, we're not looking to get the property back. We have zero desire to like screw somebody over. They fulfill your side and we'll work with you to get you there. And it feels like that's the dynamic that we have with a lot of our deals.
I want to build something there. I actually know of a guy. I don't really know him directly, just kind of secondhand relationships that I've heard some things that basically he runs a kind of similar strategy, but with the intention or understanding that people are going to default and he's going to keep collecting that front side and just keep placing new buyers in there with a much more shady intention than what you're talking here. So I can tell by your reaction, something you're familiar with.
This is like what a lot of like there's lease option strategies where you can get courses on lease options, and that's the whole strategy. You get these people that don't really qualify, you get the option fee, then in 3 years, 90% of them will default, you get the property back, you do it again. And it's like, sure, that works. But like, is that what I want to build my legacy off of?
Right. Is that the intentions I want my money to be tied to? Like I'm making money off of the intention of screwing somebody, I think is terrible. So
Exactly.
you have the positive intention of helping people with the hope that they keep it. Because, right, I don't want to take this thing back. Come on, I already gave it to you. I don't want it back. No take backs. Right. So, like, I want them to keep it. Don't bring it back.
And like a worst case scenario, we do get a property back, like we're doing like right now. It's like, okay, now we just bring another family in. It's actually a net positive. Like we're actually going to make more money. It's just we just have to go through an eviction process. So, like, at the worst case scenario, it's not that bad.
Mm-hmm. Another question. I'm curious. Do you run this strategy but buy them in cash? I know another guy that buys them on market very cheap and then will run the seller finance route. Do you do that as well?
So that's what we do now. When we first started, it was like we were wholesaling and anything that had the financing in place, we would just rent. because I mean, it's really funny. Like in retrospect, also because like for us, the financing for me at least was like, oh, we can't buy in cash. We don't have like hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash to buy properties. Well, actually, you just call like a hard money lender and you use like bridge money or hard money, and you can buy it pretty easily. We didn't know what we didn't know, and it seemed like a really big deal. And so then eventually, now because the model wasn't scalable in our market, just doing subject to and seller financing, we just couldn't find enough with. So now we actually do. We buy it, we renovate it, we refinance it, and then we seller finance it. And so if anyone's familiar with the BRRRR method, it's talked about a lot on Bigger Pockets. It's like buy, renovate, refinance, rent, and repeat. It's very similar to financing on the back end.
It's like BRRRRs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I dig it. Yeah, actually, it's one of the other guests that we're gonna have pretty soon, Michael Kierce. He does what he calls this virtual wealth flipping strategy, very similar to that, buying them on market in cash or even with a mortgage, right? In theory, if you could get it low enough. Now it wouldn't happen, but normally you would buy it in cash and then you would run the same seller finance play there. So love that. Love that. Love that. So all right, guys, any other questions? We got about 5 minutes left here with Philip, and he first off has been awesome sharing so much value. While we wait on a oh, here you go. How do you refi out of the home from Bain?
Yes. So when you refi into hard money, then as like starting out, like whoever's at the beginning stages of real estate, one of our mentors when we first started just told us like call 3 hard money lenders and just ask questions and like learn about the different loan opportunities there are. So there's a loan called a debt service cover ratio loan. It's DSCR. It's very, very popular for everyone holding rentals
Yeah.
and is based off of the amount that a property can rent for. And we do everything into DSCR loans. So we buy the house, then we renovate it, and then we get an appraisal on it, and then we refinance it. And so you just go through, if you want to, yeah, feel free to message me and I can get you connected to different lenders that you can talk to. We have a main lender in Kansas City that we use. There's tons of different lenders. They have different types of qualifications, but the biggest thing is just like ours are like no doc loans. It's just like just based off the asset. So they just look at the asset, they do the appraised value, and they'll give us 80% of that appraised value.
Yeah. Yeah, we rock a lot with the DSCR. I've been talking about this G Money method, leveraging a DSCR, slightly different because it's not just about renting, it's about the revenue. Sometimes, again, you never know what the loan products are out there until you start asking. I literally like, hey, who would lend on a horse farm if I can show it's doing revenue? I got like 3 people that are like, yeah, we would do it. Right. So it's like you just got to go ask. And that's another great point. I'm glad that you made. It's like when you get started, you don't know what you don't know, right? And it took me a long time to unlock that. Oh my gosh, it's way too easy to get other people's money to pay for this. I am not limited by the chains of financial burden. I can literally just say, hey, I got a good deal, and people will jump up to fund it. It's like they're literally excited to do it. It's not like you got to go sell the idea. If you got a good deal, you're going to be able to find the money. Come to me, come to somebody like Philip. We can help you. All kinds of people out there. There is a army of daisy chaining hard money people out there on social media trying to offer you some kind of broker fees and front side origination. So I would always recommend going through a direct connection from somebody that you know, a referral from somebody like Philip or myself or whoever that has worked with somebody that they can give you a more trustworthy relationship, because there's lots of people that are always shady in any space that has a dollar sign attached to it. So keep that in mind. But that's cool that you Rich, and I love that. And I saw Bain said that you're able to wrap the hard money for the DSCR after you've
Yeah.
refinanced.
Yeah. So this is very similar to like a subject to wrap, right? So like technically when you're doing a wrap, like there are loan terms that you're technically violating, right?
Mhm.
So like if you have a due on sale clause called on a subject to, that's because you're actually violating the underlying financing. Um, is that going to happen? Most likely no. If it does happen, are there ways to get around it? Yes. So because we're scaling this model, because we do 5 a month in Kansas City and we're looking to continue growing that. Because we're scaling this model, we do a more of a lease option structure, so it doesn't violate the underlying financing. If you're doing your first deal, like I would not be super concerned with that. It's just for us, it was a question of scalability, because we want to make sure like 10 years down the road, we're not going to get like nipped in the butt for doing a bunch of like, hundreds and hundreds of these in like the wrong way.
One thing about me is when I learn something, I learn it and I be talking about it. And recently I learned about land trusts and how this applies to some of these things. Have you done anything or any of these in a land trust? Because I have been searching and found a few DSCR lenders that will lend to a land trust. So in that situation where it's taken over creative, we can bring the seller into the land trust, assign the beneficiary of rights of interest, I should say. And so they then are technically still there and kind of, well, not kind of, they're private, it's hidden. Have you used this strategy?
So I should preface this with saying like we are by no means a perfect operation. We're continuing to learn and grow like all the time. There's people like way past us and way above us. So like we're a few years into this, we're learning. We have tried the land trust model, and for us, it was extremely challenging operationally. And we had a mentor in creative financing told us the specific type of trust to set it up, and like all the title companies said, no, that's not possible. He said, find the right title company. And it's just like, we are not currently using trust. We have played around with trust in the past. I'm sure there's a way to do this in trust that like works out really well. For us operationally, it created some really big kinks that made it not worthwhile.
Well, there's an answer that I wouldn't have expected. So that's good. This is why I asked these questions. So first off, not everything is for everybody. Second off, I'm curious if Pace's creative title starts to solve some of these problems that we all face in different markets.
I imagine Pace's creative title would have some benefits in this area.
That's so I think there's a lot coming. That's why I'm excited as we hit the 1 hour mark. I'll kind of tie up with we are partnering on our side with top tier transaction coordinators. So all of our students will be getting their files done by top tier. And through that connection, everywhere possible, we will be able to use creative title on these deals as well. So awesome to be able to know that there is people that understand the game that we're trying to do here and able to make things like that easier. Because I've had to jump through some hoops over the past couple of days trying to find people that would lend to a land trust and then find, a title company that or the title company that the seller wants to use. Are they going to understand what we're doing here and make it smooth, or am I going to have to like pull in other resources to try to teach them? So definitely understand how it can add some kinks to the process as I've been trying to iron those out on my side as well. Not probably for your first deal if you're doing it out there on your own. If you're working with somebody else that can guide you a little bit more, it may be more of an option, and also
Yeah.
maybe market to market.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like the biggest thing on the first deal is just like eliminating friction and like not worrying about all these things. Like, get a deal under your belt, and that's step number one. And then get the second deal under your belt, and like then we start to like refine and learn. So yeah, I fully agree with that.
So Bain has another question here on that same light. What were the issues with the land trust that you did find? What made it harder for you?
So for us, it was originally like a specific type of land trust that title companies were not recognizing in our state. We were told it was illegal. We were told it wasn't real. Our mentor told us it's definitely real. It's definitely legal. So it's just like the structuring of the land trust and having a title company that recognized it was part one. We have the same mentor that does this in Georgia and Northern Florida. He was doing a land trust before as well, and he stopped doing it because of just like explaining that to our families, because I think the families have to be beneficiaries on the trust like when you wrap it. So just explaining that whole process to like a first generation American who's like buying a house for the first time is can be a bit challenging. So like that was the reason that he stopped doing it. It was also operational reasons. It was just like the ease of the process. So those are the two reasons. And yeah, but I know like the majority of people have been in real estate for decades and decades. They leverage and utilize trusts. And we just have not been able to implement that and like utilize it in our company yet.
Yeah, I think that the title company is a huge hurdle. If you can't find a title company that's not going to give you that, hey, this is illegal, then it's just going to be hard to get that around that period. So definitely get that. Any other questions, guys? Anything else? Anything else that you would like to share, Phil? But you have a community as well that you lead. You want to drop some details on everything you got going?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so on Facebook, I'm Philip Loudon. Then we have a school community that's totally free just to come in. There's like a free masterclass there that kind of breaks down our model a little bit more. And yeah, would love for you guys to join if you like this model and want to ask questions. I'm kind of just in there all the time, just similar to what Garrett's doing, just like offering value and being of service and teaching people more and more about this model. So connect with me if you have questions. Elijah, I saw they said you're in KCK. Feel free just to DM me
Yeah,
either in school. Yeah.
I actually had a question. So have you ever worked with like local governments before? Like I seen like they be having like the land banks and stuff. Like in my local area, we got like the Wyandotte County Land Bank, and I know we mostly looking for homes and stuff, but like for like when you want to get into like opportunities like new builds and stuff like that, have you ever looked into that type of opportunity?
When we first started doing, when we first started wholesaling, like we started getting all these houses that were land bank houses that sellers were trying to sell us, and we just could not get the land bank to release the lien on them. It was like our experience with the land bank was extremely challenging. And that was for wholesaling. It was like we like got probably like 5 or 10 houses under contract that were land bank properties, and the land bank just like refused to release the lien. Is there a pathway of working with the land bank? Yes, probably, but you'd have to figure out like the bureaucratic system of getting them to release liens. And you can probably like Yeah, I'm sure there's a niche there. They can figure out a way to make those properties work because they sell the properties for really cheap. But you'd have to figure out like the back end and the paperwork of like getting equitable interest and then eventually getting the land bank to like release the lien they have on the properties.
So the answer is yes, you could do it, but not the best dollar cost average of your time if you're at early stage looking to get deals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Especially like, go to Elijah.
yeah, cause I was at this what you call it? Cause the reason that I didn't even pop this on my head, I was actually at this Halloween party thing. I don't know why they had a Halloween party so early, but anyway, they had a Halloween party, and the mayor and the chief financial dude was there, and one of the people that I messed with, she was like, I had shook with hands with bro, and I didn't even know who he was. And she was like, oh yeah, you know, you just shook hands with Laverne, like the dude like in charge of all the economic development in our county, and his son got a development company or whatever the case may be. And I was like, huh. So I'm like, how can I leverage this person hand that I just shook? And then I was like, well, hold up, they got the land bank, and then I know they've been talking about the homeless community like. So I was like, huh, I'm like,
Let me
maybe it's an
flip something for you.
opportunity like to bridge that, like present like because if you present like a good offer to the community, like they're like, oh yeah, this would really help the community, and then you got somebody on that side, that's okay, and then you go to the side where the people actually make a profit from helping you develop these buildings, and then you actually have a place for like the homeless people to work. Like since we doing houses, like say I partnered up with like, I don't know, the association right up the way that be doing like apprenticeships and stuff, you could tie them in, and then that'd be like a whole. I don't know. I was thinking about that joint, but I don't know how that joint would work. If you was
So
thinking about implementing,
I want to flip something you said on there for you. I think it'll help everything else that you said. Instead of looking at it, how can I leverage this person? I want you to look at it like, how can I add value in a way in which this connection can be valuable? Right.
yeah, that's what I meant. Like even though I said that to start off, that's why I immediately went into like how can I make a situation beneficial for everybody? Yeah.
Win-win. There you go. That's what's up. Well, all right, guys. I got another meeting I got to jump into with top tier, so I got to get that finalized. If y'all need me, you know where to find me. You got Philip's information now as well. I'm sure we'll have more collaborative sessions because I got a lot of value. I can see many others got a lot of value as well. And if you guys are in the community and you're generating these kind of opportunities in the Kansas City market, you now know who to go to. You've got the connection right here. So feel free to reach out to him directly and get some deals done, guys. Let's keep it rocking. We got 3 deals signed yesterday from the community and more coming. So I'm excited to see all the movement, see lots of opportunities. People doing the direct to agent outreach are getting a lot of movement, picking up some momentum on the direct to seller side with Hans doing a lot of live calling and stuff like that as well. So a ton of movement coming, guys. I appreciate everybody that comes and spends time every day. It really charges me up for the next 3 or 4 hours of phone calls I got lined up through the afternoon, guys. So that's where I'm headed to next. I will be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern time, and we will dive deeper